Hospital Group. I also sit at AR Hospital, which is on Kiambu Road. It is our satellite clinic. As we all know that June is Men's Health Month. And this is a special webinar, the Man Cave series that is titled The Unfiltered Man. We are going to look at the connection between the mental and the physical. So this morning, we are going to get insights from psychiatrists, psychology, and a nutritional expert to explore the critical links that we have between the mind, the body, and move on to discuss the practical strategies for promoting a healthier and a more connected man within the society. With that said, allow me to hand over to Mr. Donald Okumu, who is going to be the moderator of the day. Mr. Donald, karibu sana.
Good morning, a very good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this chance. Good morning, everyone from wherever you're hearing us from. And today marks a very good point for us to get to discuss one of the most critical or important, if so I may say, topics in terms of men's mental health. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to get started to listen to some of the things that you're going to learn from this. I know there is a lot to learn for the men and also for the ladies with the bid to understand one another more, to support one another more, and to be well aware. So as we've been told, or maybe as some of us may know, today we are having Dr. Emmanuel Amadi, a consultant psychiatrist, will be helping us break these things down from a mental health perspective. We have Dr. Leonard Njiro, who will be giving us a physician's perspective to some of the issues that we are talking about. And then again, from a mental health perspective, we'll be having our consultant psychologist, Kevin Gachet. And of course, you are what you eat. So there is the aspect of nutrition, or maybe the nutritional perspective of health, both physically and mentally, and that will be given to us by none other than Kefa Nyanumba, who is a consultant psychiatrist, a consultant nutritionist. So I don't want us to waste a lot of time, because I know we want to hear from our panelists and get to see what they have to share with us. And to get us started, I'd just like to hear from the panelists what they have to say about the research that consistently demonstrates that traditional masculine norms are often maybe revolving around self-reliance, stoicism, emotional control, suppression, and all that. Now, from your professional perspective, how do these expectations influence men's physical, psychological, and social well-being across their lifespans? I'd request Kevin Gachet to go first. What do you think about Kevin, if you can hear me, what do you think about the conditioning that men are supposed to be self-reliant, men are supposed to wear that stoic shield, and also portray an aspect of I have everything in control? So Kevin, over to you.
Thank you. So to answer the question, yes, over time, men have been socialized to be stoic, not show emotion, uh, not show vulnerability, and to be self-reliant. And it has led to depression. We have um, among
Kevin, I'm not sure if I was able to hear you well, but I believe that was well answered. I don't know. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Kevin, somebody else is saying that they could not hear you well.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
I think I can hear you. You could just take the next 1 minute or so, then we move on to the next person.
Sorry, I don't know where it cut, but yeah. So basically, the emotional suppression is causing problems in terms of it's manifesting in terms of different mental health conditions like depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and it's interfering with social connections and capacity amongst men because they're not able to form long-lasting connection or relationships due to the emotional suppression.
Hello, Kevin?
Hello?
All right, all right, all right. So,
Hello?
Apologies as Donald tries to reconnect.
Sorry, Gadoni, can you hear me?
Can hear you, Kevin.
Oh, that I lost connection.
Gathoni, as maybe we're looking for Donald, could you please just carry on with the conversation so that we try to redeem him? Oh, perfect. Donald is here.
hello, can you
Donald,
hear
we
me?
had lost you a little bit, but you can continue.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Hello? Hi, Gadoni, can you hear me?
Donald, I can hear you. Please proceed.
All right. Now, sorry about the network challenge. I hope now you can hear me. I'm really, really sorry about that break that we just had. But I left it at a point when we were asking Dr. Amadi to give us, from a psychiatric point of view, how these issues about how men are told to suppress their emotions, how men are supposed to at least do something, and emotional expression is not usually one of the things. How have these things influenced men over time? Growing up, how does that have an impact on their physical, psychological, and sociological aspects of functioning? Dr. Madi?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Dr. Emmanuel Madi. I'm a consultant psychiatrist. Just to highlight on the effects of these expectations amongst males or men, the stoicism. One of the things physically, what we would see amongst the male is that the emphasis on self-reliance, of course, will translate to a delayed health-seeking behavior, and basically just postponed sorting help, particularly in mental health. And again, the other aspect, we'll see that a lot of men will engage in higher risk behaviors, possibly things like substance use, to potentially cope with the high stressful situations. Psychologically, the self-reliance will portray itself in not forming uh, uh, possibly not being able to articulate their emotions very well, and in that manner, then portray or channel these emotions in what would be masculine acceptable emotional presentation, such as being irritable or angry, and that will be associated with the males being masculine. And in that sense, of course, mask some of the emotions that they may feel very deeply, such as sadness, okay, or grief, you know. Um, the other consequence that we might have socially is it might create a paradoxical situation where the men have fewer close confidence, and even with the relations that they have, at times they might be just centered about around common activities and not necessarily what they would feel deeply inside. And in that sense, have very transactional relations, and even in the relationships that they have that would possibly be emotionally meaningful might be very few. And if they end up losing such connections, for example, a spouse through divorce or through death, it could be extremely difficult um, for the males, so, and very devastating, especially even in later life, in later years in males' life as they get older. You see their circles become quite smaller and smaller. And of course, in that case, then them trying to rebuild these meaningful relationships become even quite more difficult and become much more isolated, even as they grow, even as male grow older. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm having a bit of trouble with my internet, so I'm just trying to get everything ready. I'm just trying to sort out things, but I hope we can still we are still on the same we're still on the same page. Kefa, from how do these things influence men growing up? Maybe in the next 1.5 minutes. Then we move on to the next thing. Then after you, I'll also have from a physician's perspective, Dr. Leonard Jeru before we carry on. So, Kefa. Hi, Kefa.
Hi.
Hello, Kefa. Kefa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Kefa, if you can hear me, you could give your perspective on this, the aspect of conditioning and how that influences men, and also maybe how stress is physiologically connected to mental health outcomes, as well as the metabolic impact as well.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, it's important for us to understand that studies have actually shown that, men tend to be affected more when it comes to stress compared to women. And stress actually tends to increase the need or the demand for nutrients and oxygen. And therefore, men tend to be more predisposed to micronutrient, deficiencies. And this has a direct impact in terms of their metabolism rate. I mean, it actually slows down their metabolism rate. And this, of course, increases the risk of lifestyle diseases. Now, the other thing we also need to understand is the fact that when men are actually stressed, usually the body also produces, the stress hormone known as cortisol. And cortisol, of course, affects them in a number of ways. It actually affects their sleep patterns and increases, the risk of conditions such as hypertension and diabetes. And therefore, it's very, very important for men to, prioritize stress management.
All right. Thank you very much. I hope that was loud and clear. Thank you for sharing. Now, moving on swiftly, let me go back to Kevin, our psychologist. There is this bit of contemporary psychological research that suggests that men and women experience emotions with comparable intensity. So what is constant here is the aspect of experiencing emotions and things like that. So how does gender socialization shape the aspect of emotional awareness, emotional regulation, and probably an aspect of all right. Sorry. I was asking, how does the aspect of gender socialization shape how men become emotionally aware as adults, how they regulate their emotions, and how they seek help? Like Dr. Amadi already alluded to, that this aspect of emotional suppression hinders early help seeking. Yes, so Kevin?
Yes, there's been a misconception over time that women are more emotional than men, which is not the case. I think men and women feel the same range of emotions and the same intensity. It's just that men don't talk about it. Men don't express the emotion. And it's because it's been discouraged over time to process, how you feel. So if you don't process, you're not able to understand how you feel. And if you don't understand how you feel, it's hard to explain how you feel. So for many men, they don't have the vocabulary to describe the emotions they're going through. In fact, there's a term called alexithymia, which is difficulty in recognizing and describing emotion. So, and this, I think, also contributes to the delay in care or seeking help. On top of that, we've talked about men being socialized to be self-reliant. There are men who feel when they recognize there's a problem, they feel they can deal with it on their own. Kimwanaume, for lack of a better word, right? And also, there's that. Also, some men feel like if they wait it out, if they just take some time, whatever is that is bothering them will subside. Right? So that is how just the how we've been socialized in terms of not being able to express or process our emotions. Those are the impacts that it had, especially in the delayed care as well.
Right. What you're telling us is that at some point, this aspect of socialization is something that's propagated by the myth that men don't experience emotions as much as women do. And from what you're saying, you're telling us that we all experience emotions. The only difference that comes is how we express them. A man will express maybe anger, frustration differently. A man may not show the novel sadness and things like that. So there is that aspect of a myth that revolves around how we express our emotions. But one thing that I think all of us are in agreement is that we experience emotions. And then this aspect of awareness can really open us up to conversations about if we have to express our emotions, then what are some of the healthy ways of expressing these emotions? What are some of the safe spaces that you can take advantage of and things like that? Now, to you, Dr. Hamadi, what evidence exists, if there is any, regarding the psychological consequences of this suppression that Kevin just talked about, particularly how it affects how somebody regulates stress, how it cognitive functioning and interpersonal relationships, and maybe just that aspect of vulnerability in general. So, Dr. Madi, is there any evidence that exists? If there is any, which ones?
Well, certainly, evidence does exist in how well the physiological consequences of the chronic emotional suppressions are there. Indeed, you see, depression will present differently because of the way males have been able to suppress the emotions and how they verbalize or they express them. To this extent that the different frameworks that we have in diagnosing the mental illnesses, or you see, we would talk about sadness, for example, in depression, that would be exhibited for about at least 2 weeks, and things like possibly being tearful and all of that, which might not necessarily be something that would be expressed by a man. And some of whom will just say that I'm feeling off or I'm feeling numb. Um, and you see, in that sense, then having that recognition gap, then therefore delaying in how they will seek help. You see, so like my colleague Kevin has talked about alexithymia, where the individual is unable to represent the feeling that they have and having a vocabulary to that extent of what the emotional aspect that they're having at that particular time. And you see, because of the decades of how we've been socialized into emotional restriction, therefore, and having that sort of discomfort in just talking expressly about these things, then we would not have the language in which the males in typical therapy sessions will be have the ability to articulate what they are feeling at that particular time, and therefore even lose out on those sessions, the impact within which those sessions, when they go through those sessions, so identifying some of the um, uh, some of the vocabulary that possibly males are able to articulate how they feel, even in how they feel off or they feel numb, and we're able to possibly bridge that gap of vocabulary to the extent that they understand when they feel that numbness or they feel off, that is indeed what we would possibly suggest to be a form of grieving or a form of sadness, and therefore highlighting that they indeed are experiencing a sort of depression at that particular time. Then it would be something that, because of having a vocabulary that you're able to speak about and also engage with the male, then we will not miss out on such diagnosis and also managing these mental health conditions. Yeah, you're right. The other thing is that because of the way our emotions amongst male have been restricted, and therefore this peak around male or men when they are together is that if you ask them how they are, they'll just give you a simple answer that I'm fine, I'm doing well. However, you'll find that in the world, when we talk about suicide, the attempts amongst female, of course, is more, but the gender in amongst whom the suicide attempts are successful most is amongst males. So that is something quite striking in this regard, that the males will not necessarily talk about the suicidal ideations as much as the females would do, you see. And in this regard, then they would switch from suicidal ideation to actual suicide attempt very quickly without anyone possibly noticing. And they would might choose a much lethal way of having that attempt done, that it would be much more successful, that we would see worldwide that we have about that typically the suicide rates that men are successfully typically about 2 to 4 times higher than the females. In Kenya, it's about 5 times higher, you know. So such kind of things, you will see that how they actually impact how it does impact in how vulnerable men are as regards to being emotionally suppressed. Thank you.
Dr. Madi, are you still saying something? I think I've lost you at some point towards the end. Right.
No, I've actually concluded my point. I was waiting on you. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So, yeah, I heard you talk about duration. I heard you talk about diagnosis. You've talked about vulnerability and some of the things that have been conditioned from the word go. And what I know, and all of us can attest that from childhood, if you have, let's say, a lady, you have a young girl and a young boy, and maybe they go out playing and they come back crying, there is a chance that you will console the girl. And then the man, me growing up, my mom used to tell me, why don't you fight back? Why don't you also help them and things like that? Growing up into the workspaces and things like that, there is always that expectation that you need to have some of these things under control. So if we are having these conversations, then that means we are developing this sort of emotional vocabulary that at some point was not there from the word go. So thank you very much for encouraging us to be more open, to be maybe more aware of our emotions and get to know how we can express them. Maybe to all of us, and then with this, I'd start with the Dr. Njeru and ask if, let's say, the body serves as an early warning sign for that aspect of psychological and physiological overload, that which is referred to as the allostatic load. What are some of the key signs and symptoms that we should recognize as men, or maybe the people around us can help us to recognize before maybe there are more serious health consequences? What are some of the things that we could look at in that regard, Dr. Njeru?
Okay, so good morning, panelists and the listeners. This is me, Dr. Leonard Nzeru. I am a consultant psychiatrist, and happy to join you for this discussion. And yes, this is a very pertinent thing that we encounter quite frequently amongst our patients and even amongst ourselves. I'll beg to switch off my video. I think my network is not very stable, so this will help so that it's a bit more consistent. I hope you can hear me. So yes, there are those things that clinically and even from observation, we are able to observe the changes or the physical warnings that frequently come along when a person or a man is going through these distressful situations. We can say they are organic telltale signs. And many times, patients will present for care, seeking help for the organic symptoms, not knowing that in the background, there is what is happening. And quite frequently, you will have that physical tension that generally this man feels that there is something that is off physically. Maybe it is muscular aches and pains. It could be headaches, back pains, those stressful patterns that can come along as a result of stressful events or experiences. Then quite commonly, disturbances in sleep. Someone is not sleeping well, they are not sleeping enough, they have restless sleep. Probably they are waking up too early in the morning, or they have difficulty going to sleep in the evening. They are common pedestrian complaints that could sometimes go without notice, and they are not quite emotionally elaborated. And then even basic things like how is someone feeding, do they have good appetite? And we know men, we need the energy, and the strength to exert ourselves quite frequently, even in the physical things that we are doing. So when those appetite changes, and sometimes they are accompanied by more dramatic observations like probably weight loss.
Right, Dr. Jared.
Yes. I don't know whether you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. I was struggling to hear you, but I was able to capture some of the most important things. We've talked about some of these issues from childhood, our experiences, growing up, and things like that. So maybe just to being mindful of time, I'd ask Kevin. Kevin, maybe many men are socialized to prioritize problem solving as opposed to emotional disclosure. Yes, we always want to do something, and maybe expressing an emotion is not one of the things. How does this tendency influence how we manage stress as men, how we function interpersonally, how resilient we become, and things like that, and the overall psychological well-being?
Thank you. So now, when a man solves a problem, it doesn't mean that they process the stress or the emotional difficulty that has come with that problem. To give an example, I have a friend who is working on a project car, and for the last 6 months, and he's been having to buy very expensive parts every month. So we can say he's problem solving by buying these parts. But then we noticed that he would start to isolate, he would, be irritable here and there, he'd be withdrawn, he'd be monosyllabic, not talking much. So about 2 weeks ago, I asked him, is everything okay? And he mentioned that, the car is stressing him. Working on this car has been something he's been looking forward to, but it's really stressing him financially and even emotionally. He's not enjoying the process anymore. So you see, he did not disclose that. That has been suppressed over time, and it's been manifesting in different ways in terms of how he's regulating his mood, in terms of how he's showing up in social spaces, and how he feels about himself. So you find that yes, so that lack of emotional disclosure can really also manifest in terms of emotional unavailability, especially in relationships. For example, if maybe your partner or your friend is looking for a listening ear, right? They'll just want to feel heard or seen, right? But you're giving them solutions here and there, right? It can feel dismissive and it can lead to the relationship being distant or as I said, emotional unavailability will start to manifest in that relationship. And one thing also about resilience is not only enduring hardship, because as men, I think we define resilience as just taking it and just moving forward, right? But resilience is also processing how whatever hardship you're going through, how it's made you feel, what emotional impact it's had on you. And it's very hard to recover because resilience is the ability to recover or bounce back from the adversity, right? And it's very hard to bounce back if you haven't processed the difficulty that that problem has produced. So yes, so that's what I would say for that question.
Aha. Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I see there's engagements in the chat box. There are also some engagements in the Q&A segment. So maybe just something to add. If you're asking a question, please just direct it to a specific panelist so that we ensure that we are not time barred. So thank you very much, Kevin, for doing that. Dr. Njeru, I think there was a time that I lost you when you were talking about some of these things that we can look out for, or some of the things that anybody who is here can see. Maybe in the next 1 minute, would you wind up? Hi, Dr. Njeru, can you hear me? Hello. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay, all right. So, Dr. Njeru, if you can hear me, there was a time, I think I cut you short at some point. There was some network error. So you were talking about, you're winding up on some of the things to look out for in terms of warning signs for men. Dr. Njeru? All right. Maybe if you're able to join us at some point, I will be able to give you a chance to wind
Well,
up
just
on
to just to add on what Dr. Njeru was talking about,
Okay.
to cover as we wait for Dr. Njeru to join us in. I think some of the body signs that we can look
Yes,
out
Dr.
for.
Amadi, carry on.
Yes, what we can look out for in amongst males, or generally anyone. Really, what he had explained, what are somatization of mental health conditions, possibly things like chronic pain, which is unexplained. You talk about gastrointestinal disturbances, potentially having acid refluxes and the likes. Libido changes where you have possibly erectile dysfunctions or loss or low libido, possibly vague malaise or just consistent or persistent fatigue, aspects of being irritable. Of course, things such as being efficiency compulsion, which would possibly mean that someone is just unable to just sit and do nothing, possibly just relax, and they would rather just, for example, exercise to exhaustion, just to fill up the gap. And aspects such as being socially withdrawn, they have actually just emotionally checked out. Those are some of the telltale signs that would possibly kick in to show that you have some sort of burnout. Back to you.
All right, all right. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much, Dr. Madi, for the wonderful insight on some of the things that we need to check when we are looking at some of these things. Maybe just while you're still on call, Dr. Madi, I'd just like to ask you if maybe this stress stays with us, if this constant expectation to deliver, the pressure and things like that, there are the impacts that we can get in short term, and maybe that in other terms we would refer to as the survival mode and things like. If we get stuck in that mode for a long time, what can that lead to psychologically, mentally, physically, and all those aspects, Dr. Amadi? If you could help us to break that down.
Certainly, yes. Of course, you see, medically, when we look at the sort of response that the body gives whilst we are under intense pressure, I had just alluded to the signs that we could potentially experience, such as the chronic pains, the changes in libido, the gastrointestinal disturbances, and the like. Of course,
All right.
the other
Right.
aspect,
Thank
just
you.
hold on.
Thank you very much.
Yes. The other aspect that we could also look at in terms of long-term health consequences because of the poor management of stress could be some what we would call cardiometabolic catastrophe because of the interplay between what would the axis that we have a fight or flight axis, medically what we refer to as the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And in this axis, of course, if it is consistently activated, it could lead to metabolic issues. You'd have a lot of insulin resistance. And because of this, you would also have visceral adiposity, where you have a lot of fat around the middle section of the body, and could be a risk factor to developing conditions such as type 2 diabetes or coronary artery diseases, or even ischemic strokes. Other things that we could also look into is because of the chronic cortisol levels in the body, it could lead to hippocampus shrinkage, which could also affect our memory, and therefore you'd have memory lapses, and as well as disrupting the prefrontal cortex, and therefore you'd have a lot of poor emotional regulation, and therefore you would talk about the irritability aspect. Also, the sensitization of the amygdala, leading to a lot of anxiety. All right. And also the consistent loss of sleep and your sleep cycle being affected. Other things would that we consider such as the immune system possibly being downgraded a little bit because of high inflammatory issues, such as what we would call as the cytokine storm, which could also lower your immunity and be susceptible to a lot of infections. Those are some of the things that we could highlight as a long-term consequences. Back to you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Amadi. You're telling us that some of these things you can see them maybe affect us in the here and now, but with time we'd realize that they have a long-term impacts in terms of our mental, of our physical health. You've talked about fat distribution in the body, which I also I know have some cardiac impacts and things like that. You've also talked about immunity, which is a very strong point for us to take home with us. So, Kefa, from a nutritional perspective, maybe just to ask, we often underestimate the impact of sleep. At some point, there is the aspect of nutrition. We have movement and things like that. If you could identify maybe some lifestyle habits that hurt men's health mostly today, what would they be? What would some of these lifestyle habits that could be self-defeating, if so I may say?
Right. Thank you so much. There are a number of habits that are actually known to affect men. And of course, these effects actually tend to be more pronounced, especially when men are actually, stressed. Of course, the first one is the fact that most of them don't understand that, sleeping is not a luxury, but a necessity. I'm saying this because we all need an average of 6 to 8 hours of sleep on a daily basis. Now, we know that that actually plays a key role when it comes to our metabolism, because our body produces, some hormones that are known to influence our appetite, and that of course happens at night when we're actually sleeping. We know that one of the challenges men actually struggle with sometimes is actually because it's actually issues to do with the appetite. And that, of course, means that they're likely to be affected when it comes to their meal frequency, and which is actually one of the reasons as why we are seeing a number of them actually getting conditions such as digestive disorders. I mean, conditions such as gastritis, the acid reflux, IBS are becoming very, very common nowadays. But of course, for us to be able to address that, it's very important for men to understand that we need to measure that we prioritize rest so that we can be able to get good appetite. Of course, the other challenge men actually get is the fact that most of them actually don't understand that fruits and vegetables are actually very, very important. They actually tend to think that fruits are not as important to adults as compared to children. But we all know that fruits are actually key when it comes to some of the key nutrients that are known to boost our immune function. You just talked about our immunity, which is actually a self-defense mechanism, and I think one of the key things we need to do is to understand that there's some key nutrients that our body needs, and some of these nutrients are actually found in especially the citrus, fruits. Now, men also need to understand that exercise is actually very, very important. In fact, WHO recommends approximately, 150 minutes of exercise, that is on weekly basis. If they can be able to get at least 150 minutes of exercise, they should be able to count themselves active. But we also understand that some of the challenges men face actually include their lack of time. But they can actually use, for instance, gadgets such as a pedometer, so that they can be able to count their steps. Because if they can actually be able to attain at least 10,000 steps on a daily basis, of course, they should be able to, count themselves active. And that, of course, will assist them in terms of in many ways, including, weight management, which is actually a major issue that's not just affecting men, but women as well. So those are some of the few issues that usually men struggle with. But of course, we're always there as professionals to be able to assist them so that they can be able to lead, a healthy lifestyle.
Are you still saying something, or are you done?
I'm actually done.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. The nutrients that our bodies need, and how when we are stressed, they are not well distributed or well uptaken in the body. So thank you very much for that. So I think I'd go to what I've already seen in the chat. And I'll direct the first question. There is a question by J.M. Nyaga. You're asking, a man feels overwhelmed by demands from externals. And that question I direct to Kevin. The man sorts the demands, but still continues feeling drained. And more wanted than loved, or emphasis on that, more wanted than loved. At what point does one need to change that feeling? And if they need to change the feeling, how does that happen? Can you recommend some time out? Kevin, let me throw that to you.
Thank you. So, sorry, can you repeat the question if you don't mind? Could you repeat the question? Could you repeat the question, please?
Kevin, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me, Kevin?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
I hope you can hear me. All right. So
Can you repeat the question? It had cut a little bit.
Okay. Somebody's asking, men usually experience or feel overwhelmed by demands from external pressures and things like that. So a man gets to sort them out, but still continues feeling drained. They are still drained in the process. And there is the aspect of being more wanted than loved. So probably it's more about what you provide, but not about what you feel or how you get to provide whatever you provide. At what point does one need to change that feeling, and how? Can you recommend some time out? That was the question. I hope now it's clear.
Yes. So, and I think this is tied to what I mentioned in terms of men problem solve, but you'll find that the impact, the stress of what they're solving is not disclosed. So one recommendation is for men to actually disclose what they're feeling, because to be honest, there's strength in vulnerability. When we suppress these emotions, there's no getting away with it. One way or another, they're going to come out, and they're going to come out in a way that we do not like or appreciate, or that is not healthy. So disclosing how you actually feel, yeah, because even the people that you're supporting, the people who maybe you feel want you more than love you, may be able to get that context and actually know that, okay, you're going through something, and uh, they can also help or collaborate with you in the issue. Also, self-care is very important. Many men, they have a lot on their plates. They play different roles in society. So you'll find that their self-care is neglected in terms of from body movement and exercise to sleep to their nutrition. As Kefa, the consultant nutritionist, said, even the nutritional value of the food men eat is not as adequate, right? So self-care is also very important. We cannot pour from empty cup. And lastly, community, right? Community of people who have our best interests, people who we feel valued around, people who we feel secure around. And this is a deliberate effort. It just doesn't happen organically. This is something that people have to work on, right? So I would say disclosing how you actually feel, just the stress that is happening as you problem solve. Uh, Also, self-care being a non-negotiable, because that's how we capacity build and we fill up our cup. And also, having community where we feel valued and we feel secure. Because when we feel valued and secure, we're likely to be vulnerable there, right? We're likely to be able to practice vulnerability and actually talk about how we feel with the people around us. So yeah, I hope I've answered the question.
Right. All right. So, Kevin, while I still have you, there is a question here for you. We've talked about, you've alluded to vulnerability, or maybe that aspect of disclosing maybe our emotions, problems, share this problem, household, and things like that. Somebody has asked a very interesting question. at what point can a man get vulnerable, especially in an intimate relationship context? At what point, or maybe to what extent, and how is that? How can that be done? What are some insights towards that?
Well, I think for many men, they just want to feel safe, you know? They just want to feel like if they talk about something they're going through, it won't be used against them. It won't be, because to be honest, there are men who try to be vulnerable and they've been met with ridicule, you know, or dismissal, and that now puts them off from being vulnerable again. But also, as I mentioned before, the men who just fail to have the vocabulary. They don't know how to really describe how they're feeling because the processing hasn't happened. And in therapy, we do like somatic work. We work with, okay, if you cannot describe the emotion, is there somewhere in your body that you can feel it, right? Or is there a color that you would use to describe it, or a season, right? And that now is an avenue to start, you know, processing the emotion and trying to understand what it is. But mainly it's a matter of just safe spaces, you know, holding space for one another, and also men are individually different. I would also propose asking the man, like, what would it take for you to be vulnerable? What would make you feel safe for you to express how you really feel, right? Because I don't think it's a one size fits all for everyone. So yeah, so I would say most men just want to feel safe, and that whatever is shared won't be ridiculed, used against them, or that it will be treated with confidence and dignity. Yeah.
Okay. Now, all right. Thank you very much, Kevin, for sharing that aspect. I hope that helps to answer that question that was asked by one of our participants here. Now, to Dr. Amadi, I'd like to ask two questions. There is a question that has been asked about balancing or managing the relationship needs and expectations, which somebody said is it's a dynamic process. How do you strike that balance? And again, when you're talking about this, something that we are looking at is um, the use of pills and things like that. Sometimes I hear people say a gallant soldier dies in line of duty and things like that. Dr. Madi, maybe in the next few seconds before we wind up, I know we are time bad.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. I think one recognition that we should have is that we can't do it alone. We've got people who've gone ahead of us, who've had a similar experience, and they've done it well. They've excelled. So mentorship is key. I think it's important for us to recognize we can't be macho about the things that we go through and just say that I'll handle it as a man and die like a man. Well, that doesn't fly nowadays. I think mentorship is key. Working or being with people that have done it before. It could be your contemporaries that have possibly have done it and have succeeded. And in that way, you're able to learn. I think the other thing is also changing on how you think about yourself. It's very key. Drawing wisdom from the book of Proverbs 23, verse 7, it says that as a man thinketh, so is he. I mean, how you think about yourself is key. You've got to renew your mind, change your mind on how you view yourself. Of course, be humble, but how you view yourself also definitely has a bearing in how you handle matters. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so the connection yes, okay, thank you very much, Doc. The connection between how you handle matters and things like that. Thank you. Somebody has just
You
talked
talked
about.
about the blue pills. That the understanding on how people have how it
Oh yes, there's
affects.
the aspect of blue pills. Yes, Doc.
Yes. Well, there is a medical aspect on reason as to why someone will need to be on blue pills. But if the reason as to why one is on Viagra is because of confidence, then that is a wrong a wrong use. Indeed, as Miles Monroe says, if the purpose of a thing is not known, then abuse is inevitable. So the blue pill, it was meant for the purpose of the blue pill or the Viagra was meant for patients that have congestive heart failure. That's the purpose. So if we do not know the purpose, then we will abuse it. Of course, the side effect thereof is that it would possibly cause the penile gland to receive, because of the dilatation of the venous or the veins, of course, will lead to an enlargement of the penis, of course, and that is why you would have such an appeal to men who possibly would have erectile dysfunction, or the reason as to why it will be prescribed to such men. But it should not be because of confidence in you, and that's why I talked about how you think about yourself. Of course, there's a story of the great legend in basketball, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is said that he visualized himself uh, scoring or putting in the 3 pointers even before striking the ball, and he went ahead to do that very many times because of that visualization and how he thought about himself being a champion and visualizing that having his name in the championships. He went up to be the greatest of all times basketball player in the NBA. So it is important on how you view yourself. Don't use the blue pill to increase on your confidence, but rather increase your confidence by mentorship, by how you view yourself, and indeed, if it is medically required that you be on the blue pill, which the purpose is known, then you will not abuse it. So thank you. That's it.
All right, all right. Thank you very much. You said something very important by Miles Monroe that if the purpose of something is not known, then abuse is inevitable. And thank you very much for that. If somebody is not going to go away with anything, then that's one of the punchlines that you can carry with you. Thank you very much, Doc, for that. Somebody has talked about vulnerability here. I'll just combine that with, I think we have Dr. Njeru on call again. So maybe you could speak to this aspect of support and understanding, compromise, and everything that maybe even women on call can take advantage of. What are some of the things that they can always ensure that they do in order to make men feel supported, feel seen, feel valued, they can feel vulnerable without losing the upper hand and things like that. So, Dr. Njeru, in the next 1 minute. Dr. Njeru, if you can hear me. Okay, seems Dr. Njeru, maybe if you're able to, then just let me know. I'll give you a chance. But now let me ask this question to Kefa. What sort of support can everybody else, can men give to one another? What sort of support can women also extend to men in order to make men feel seen, feel supported, valued, and things like that? So, Kefa?
Now, from the nutrition perspective, what I would actually say is that men actually need a lot of support in terms of, first and foremost, of course, getting nutritious meals. We know that one of the challenges they also face is issues to do with, starting their day without breakfast. We know that breakfast actually plays a key role when it comes to a number of bodily functions, including enhancing our metabolism rate. And therefore, if they would be able to take a breakfast, of course, that can actually assist them in many other ways. Of course, there are many other ways women can also assist, men. For example, by encouraging them to be more open. Of course, that is when they're actually facing challenges. One of the reasons, of course, as to why men actually tend to suffer silent is because most of them, are not that open. And of course, if would happen, it could actually play a key role when it comes to stress management. And the other thing is, of course, if they could actually encourage men to understand that when they actually stress is when they need to make sure that they don't skip their meals. Because one of the reasons as to why, most people end up getting conditions, especially men such as ulcers, is because of skipping their meals. So women have actually a major role to play when it comes to, to assisting men so that they can take care of their wellness.
Are you still here?
Yes.
All right. You're still saying something? Yeah. You're done?
I'm actually done.
All right. So are you telling the women here on a light note that the easiest way to a man's heart is through the stomach? Are you telling us that?
That's actually very important because you actually discover that women actually play a key role when it comes to determining what is actually eaten at home, and therefore, if they can be able to ensure that they're actually providing nutritious meals, by extension, of course, men.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, our panelists. I hope I was able to skim through all the questions that were asked, but because of time, we may not have the whole day here. But I hope you've taken something with you. You've learned something. You've reminded yourself something new. And with that, I'd bring that segment to a close and welcome Gathoni to take us through the next few minutes of closure and things like that. So Gathoni, over to you.
Thank you all. I truly enjoyed the conversation today. And before I invite our group chairman to give us a comment, I would like to ask our panelists just one more question, but please answer in 30 seconds. If a 25 or a 35 or a 45-year-old man today asked you one way that they can practice to be either mentally, physically, or emotionally healthy, what is it that you think would be a game changer, a low-hanging fruit that they can do today or even tomorrow to observe overall well-being? We'll start with Dr. Amadi, and then Kevin, and then Kefa, and Dr. Njeru, if you are in, and then we just close that segment completely. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Gathoni. The one thing that I would ask a 25-year-old, a 35, and a 45-year-old would be stop with the phone in the morning. Just don't touch it. For the first 5-10 minutes, just don't touch it. Sit with your feelings. Sit with yourself. Think through the day. How is it going to be? Plan it out. It will have definitely a great impact for you and the rest of your life. That's what I would say.
Thank you. I see Kevin is really smiling. I don't know if he could be a victim, but Kelvin, your one thing. I like what Dr. Amadi said. Let's hear what your thoughts are.
I would say move your body. It doesn't have to be anything intense. It could be a stretch, a morning walk, preferably when there's morning sun so that you get, direct vitamin D. But move your body. Move your body. Yeah.
No phone in the morning, sit with your feelings, move your body. Kefa?
Now, first and foremost, what I would actually say is that men actually need to be proactive. And one of the simple ways through which you can be able to do that is by first and foremost embracing what you call the annual wellness checkups, very important. And number two, of course, is to embrace lifestyle change. And of course, the most exciting part is to understand that we are not doing this because we are sick, but because we want to prevent disease.
Yes, absolutely. You couldn't have said that way better. Dr. Njeru, I don't know if you'll be able to hear us. All right, we couldn't get a hold of him earlier. I would like to thank all of you for joining us for this session on men's overall well-being. And before I close, I would like to invite our chairman, Dr. Frank Jenga, just to give us a few sentiments on the conversation today on men's well-being in general. Dr. Jenga, are you in? Sorry about that. I think we seem to keep having an internet issue this morning. I can also see there are some questions on the Q&A box, and we'll take a note of all these questions. We are going to also answer them without your name, observing confidentiality. We will absolutely also put the answers on our socials. There's also a comment from Eunice here that she says, great discussion on men's well-being. And Bildad also says, an informative discussion. Thank you for organizing this. There's a lot of good, positive feedback that is coming in on the chat box. So thank you all. I truly appreciate all of you for joining us. See you on the next one. Let me just check one more time if I'll be able to get our chairman. All right. Have a good day and a great month ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.